Krishna Book, Chapter 19, Devouring the Forest Fire. While Krishna and Balaram and their friends were engaged in the pastimes described above, the cows, being unobserved, began to wander off on their own, entering farther and farther into the deepest part of the forest, allured by fresh grasses. The goats, cows, and buffalo traveled from one forest to another and entered the forest known as ISKCON. This forest was full of green grass, and therefore they were allured. But when they entered, they saw that there was a forest fire, and they began to cry. On the other side, Balaram and Krishna, along with their friends, could not find their animals, and they became very much aggrieved. They began to trace the cows by following their footprints, as well as the path of eaten grass. All of the boys were fearing that their very means of livelihood, the cows, were now lost. When searching out the cows in the forest, they themselves became very tired and thirsty. Soon, however, they heard the crying of their cows. Krishna began to call the cows by their respective names with great noise. Upon hearing Krishna calling the cows, immediately replied with joy. But by this time the forest fire had surrounded all of them, and the situation appeared to be very fearful. The flames increased as the wind blew very quickly, and it appeared that everything movable and immovable would be devoured. All the cows and the boys became very frightened, and they looked toward Balaram and Krishna the way a dying man looks at the picture of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They said, Dear Krishna, you and Balaram are very powerful. We are now burning from the heat of this blazing fire. Let us take shelter of your lotus feet. We know you can protect us from this great danger. Our dear friend Krishna, we are your intimate friends. It is not right that we should suffer in this way. We are all completely dependent on you, and you are the knower of all religious life. We do not know anyone except you. The personality of Godhead heard the appealing voices of his friends, and casting a pleasing glance over them, he began to answer. By speaking through his eyes, he impressed upon his friends that there was no cause for fear, and he assured them, Don't worry. Then Krishna, the supreme mystic, the powerful personality of Godhead, immediately swallowed up all the flames of the fire. The cows and boys were thus saved from imminent danger. Out of fear, the boys were almost unconscious, but when they regained their consciousness and opened their eyes, they saw that they were again in the Bandira forest with Krishna. Balaram and the cows. They were astonished to see that they were completely free from the attack of the blazing fire and that the cows were saved. They secretly thought that Krishna must be not an ordinary boy, but some demigod. In the evening, Krishna and Balaram, along with the boys and cows, returned to Vrindavan, playing their flutes. As they approached the village, all the gopis became very joyous. Throughout the day, the gopis used to think of Krishna while he was in the forest, and in his absence, they were considering one moment to be like 12 years. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 19th chapter of Krishna, devouring the forest fire.
Om Jnana-timirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadhati Shapadantika Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jatapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagar Shatam Shahagana Raganatan Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Pradijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Shahagana Lalita Sri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sude Devi Pranamami Odi Priye Vanchakolpatarubhyascha Kripasindhobhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Hari Ram 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 Hari. So one point here is that spontaneously all of the boys and the cows took shelter of Krishna. This is not a question of material consciousness. They're just spontaneously dependent on Krishna. So whenever there's any difficulty, they're just calling out to Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Please save us. Another small tidbit is that the Acharjas say that when the cowherd boys thought that Krishna might be a demigod, they became ecstatic. They thought, then if he's a demigod, then maybe we're demigods too. So that way they were impressed. Any comments or questions? So it looks like today is the day to read more. Let's read some more. The description of autumn involves many different instructive vignettes. As you might recall, Srila Prabhupada had in mind to do a book for a conference in Japan, with paintings illustrating various scenes, and that was later produced by Tamal Krishna Maharaj. What was the title? Light of the Bhagavad. Okay.
Chapter 20. Description of Autumn. The killing of Pralambrasura and the devouring of the devastating forest fire by Krishna and Balaram became household topics in Vrindavan. The cowherd men described these wonderful activities to their wives and to everyone else, and all were struck with wonder. They concluded that Krishna and Balaram were demigods who had kindly come to Vrindavan to become their children. In this way, the rainy season ensued. In India, after the scorching heat of the summer, the rainy season is very welcome. The clouds accumulating in the sky, covering the sun and the moon, become very pleasing to the people, and they expect rainfall at every moment. After summer, the advent of the rainy season is considered to be a life-giving source for everyone. The thunder and occasional lightning are also pleasurable to the people. The symptoms of the rainy season may be compared to the symptoms of the living entities who are covered by the three modes of material nature. The unlimited sky is like the Supreme Brahman, and the tiny living entities are like the covered sky or Brahman covered by the three modes of material nature. Originally, everyone is part and parcel of Brahman. The Supreme Brahman or the unlimited sky can never be covered by a cloud, but a portion of it can be covered. As stated in the Bhagavad-Gita, the living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but they are only an insignificant portion of the Supreme Lord. This portion is covered by the modes of material nature, and therefore the living entities are residing within this material world. The Brahma Jyoti, that is spiritual effulgence, is just like the sunshine. As the sunshine is full of molecular shining particles, so the Brahma Jyoti is full of minute portions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Out of that unlimited expansion of minute portions of the Supreme Lord, some are covered by the influence of material nature, whereas others are free. Clouds are accumulated water drawn from the land by the sunshine. Continually for 8 months, the sun evaporates all kinds of water from the surface of the globe, and this water is accumulated in the shape of clouds. which are distributed as water when there is need. Similarly, a government exacts various taxes from the citizens, such as income tax and sales tax, which the citizens are able to pay by their different material activities, agriculture, trade, industry, and so on. This taxation is compared to the sun's drawing water from the earth. When there is again need of water on the surface of the globe, the same sunshine converts the water into clouds and distributes it all over the globe. Similarly, the taxes collected by the government must be distributed to the people again, as educational work, public work, sanitation work, etc. This is very essential for a good government. The government should not simply exact taxes for useless squandering. The tax collection should be utilized for the public welfare of the state. During the rainy season,
Whose phone is still on? We're pleased to do a phone check and see that your phone is in silent mode. So this is important as the clouds draw water and then distribute the water. So the government should levy taxes, but the government should distribute the exacted funds in the form of activities for the public welfare and not simply squander it. In Kali Yuga, the government leaders become like thieves and they tax the citizens unduly and then use the tax money for their own sense gratification. Therefore, it's stated in the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that in Kali Yuga, the pressure of tax will become so heavy that people will just leave the cities and flee to the forest just because they can't bear the pressure of undue taxation. Phones unused are best put in the pocket. That way they don't distract. Okay. So phones, taxes should be used for the public welfare. We had one friend who was in charge of helping build a metro system for one African country. And the months and months and months and months were going by. And although he completed a similar project in Dubai very quickly, in Nigeria it was going so slowly because the officials in charge were spending the money this way and that way. So he went to the person, governor, sir, how are we going to get this project done? If there's money allotted for a station, you spend it on a park. If there's money allotted for this, you spend it on that. And meanwhile, prices are going up. The project is hardly making progress. And how will we complete it? And the official said, what do you care? You're getting paid. The meaning is that the important thing was not to complete the project. The important thing was to have the project going on so that money could be siphoned off for it, for the benefit of the official and his associates. Well, this is taxation in Kali Yuga, simply used for private benefit, and therefore everyone is unhappy. Huge tax and negligible benefit. So the tax money should be spent properly. Okay.
during the rainy season, there are strong winds, blustering all over the country and carrying clouds from one place to another, to distribute life-giving water to the needy living entities. Water is urgently needed after the summer season, and thus the clouds are just like a rich man who in times of need distributes his money even to the point of exhausting his whole treasury. So the clouds exhaust themselves by distributing water all over the surface of the globe. When Maharaj Dasharath, the father of Lord Ramchandra, used to fight with his enemies, it was said that he approached them just like a farmer uprooting unnecessary plants and trees. And when there was need of giving charity, he used to distribute money exactly as a cloud distributes rain. The distribution of rain by clouds is so sumptuous that it is compared to the distribution of wealth by a great munificent person. The clouds' downpour is so profuse that the rain even fall on rocks and hills and on the ocean and seas where there is no need for water. The clouds resemble a charitable person who opens his treasury for distribution and who does not discriminate whether the charity is needed or not. He gives in charity open-handedly.
Hare Krishna. Yogyodhana tapaschaiva pavanani manishina. It's the duty of those who have money to give charity. That's their duty, not to hold on to the money, but to distribute. And by the grace of God, I've gotten more than enough. Let me distribute liberally. And therefore, in history, there have been so many charitable people. That was mentioned by King Nurga. He himself gave so much charity, but there were so many before him, great kings, who gave charity hugely. Now we're reluctant. But giving charity is, as yajna is important, as tapasya is important, giving charity is important. Any questions so far? Okay. Yes? Take it.
This is a comment on how the project doesn't get done and it's just about the money. So it's also about therapy where the person doesn't actually help you. They prolong your therapy so that you keep giving them money.
Yeah. This Kali Yuga means every kind of cheating. So people, they'll cheat by engaging you in therapy that never actually solves your problem, because if they solved your problem, then the income stream dries up. So we keep you in perpetual need. Yeah.
Before the rainfall, the whole surface of the globe becomes almost depleted of all kinds of energies and appears very lean. After the rainfall, the whole surface of the earth becomes green with vegetation and appears to be very healthy and strong. Here, a comparison is made to the person undergoing austerities for fulfillment of a material desire. The flourishing condition of the earth after the rainy season is compared to the fulfillment of material desires. Sometimes, when a country is subjugated by an undesirable government, persons and parties undergo severe penances and austerities to get control of the government, and when they attain control, they flourish by giving themselves generous salaries. This temporary profit is like the flourishing of the earth in the rainy season. Actually, one should undergo severe austerities and penances only to achieve spiritual happiness.
Historically, this goes on. There's a revolution to replace an oppressive government, then the next government becomes the next oppressor. Yeah. In Srimad Bhagavatam.
In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is recommended that tapasya or austerity should be accepted for realizing the Supreme Lord. By accepting austerity in devotional service, one regains his spiritual life, and as soon as one regains his spiritual life, he enjoys unlimited spiritual bliss. But if someone undertakes austerities and penances for some material gain, it is stated in the Bhagavad-Gita that the results are temporary and that they are desired by persons of less intelligence.
Yes, in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita, it said that charity can be performed in 3 modes of nature, in goodness or passion or ignorance. You have Bhagavad-Gita here? No. Yes. Let's see, we have to find it. We know it's there. Hmm? 20. 17. Okay. No wonder I wasn't finding it. Datavyamiti yaddanam diyate nupakarane deshe kale chapatrecha taddanam sattvikam smritam. In the mode of goodness, charity is given, datavyam, because it should be given. It's my duty to give charity, so I give charity. Datavyamiti yaddanam diyate nupakarane deshe kale chapatrecha. With due consideration of the place, the time, the person. That's charity in the mode of goodness. Actually, I run it down in here. Charity. In the Bhagavad-Gita, it says that charity purifies the giver's heart, pavanani manishinam, but people perform acts of charity in 3 modes. Charity and goodness is recommended. In goodness, we give charity because we're convinced that giving charity is something a human being ought to do. And we give without expecting anything in return. We give timely at a suitable place to a person who deserves it, and especially to saintly people dedicated to a spiritual life. Future benefits we might gain may be uncertain, but that's not the point. Charity is its own reward. Are we okay? You can hear, yeah. If we're in passion, however, we calculate, what will I get out of this? We think about how the person to whom we could give might repay the favor. Or we think about what our gifts could do for our reputation. We want our name on that building or on that plaque on the wall. If we're a corporation, perhaps our charity may serve as cover for our rapaciousness. We advertise our concern about ecological greenness, when the green we're really concerned about is money. Even doing good karma with the idea that good may come back to us is still tinged by passion. We still think, what's in it for me? And if we give grudgingly because we're stuck and see no way out, that too is in the mode of passion. Yatu pratyupakarartam, one gives for the sake of what he'll get back. Palamudishyava puna. And diyate cha pariklishtam, with grudging, in a grudging way. That's in the mode of passion. Finally, in the third mode, ignorance, we're in the dark about what we're doing. So we give at the wrong time, to the wrong person, at the wrong place, for the wrong cause. For example, at night, whose phone is ringing? For example, at night, to a bum on the street, so he can buy himself a drink. Wrong purpose, wrong person, wrong place, wrong time. So charity should be given to the right people at the right time. If we give for some material return, then the results will be temporary and intelligent. That's not what intelligent people are looking for. Okay. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, when we come to Vrindavan, we see there's like a lot of, they're Vrajvasis, but they're poor, and you feel compassionate and you really want to help them. But at the same time, there's Harinam and then there's Prashadam. But in like sometimes in my heart, I feel I wish I was a billionaire so I could help all of them. But I know that that's not the solution. So how should I make myself feel content? Like I feel sad. I feel like sad seeing, like when they come to me and, they put their hand, and then I feel like I really want to help you, but...
You see a lot of people in Vrindavan who are poor, and you really want to help them, but there's more than you can do. First thing is, they're not as poor as they seem. By comparison, perhaps, to our Western standard of life, they're poor. But especially these days, my goodness, Vrindavan is so rich, it's outrageous. There's so much money in Vrindavan, it's, what can you say? Still, there are people who are poor. General poverty is like a way of life. It's people adjust. They don't have much money. They don't need much money. They get their food. They live. And going on. And then there are those who are really poor. So that's also by God's arrangement. On account of previous activities, someone is born rich, someone is born poor. You can't really fix that. In the Bible, there's an incident that someone had bought some costly ointment and was massaging the feet of Lord Jesus Christ with this costly ointment. And someone objected that that ointment could have been sold and given to the poor, the money given to the poor. And Jesus said, the poor you'll always have with you. I'll only be with you for a few days. On account of that means actually money should be used for the service of the Vaishnavas. it's the modern idea, money should be given to the poor. But that's not actually the direction of Bhagavad-Gita. Money should be given to the Brahmins and the Vaishnavas, who keep themselves voluntarily poor. The Brahmins voluntarily accept no salary, and they're dependent on charity. The charity should be given to them because they render the best service to society. I saw some months back that when the Ukraine war had begun, there was this sort of cry on some internet websites, ISKCON internet websites, that we want to collect money to give to the refugees, give to the people, the victims of the war. And why? That's not really our business. There'll be refugees all over the world. There'll be victims of war all over the world. And if not war, then disease or poverty or some other kind of problem. And it's not ISKCON's business, or even the business of the devotees, to try to fix this. That's a kind of false ego, as if I were Mr. Fix-It. I have the power to make this a better world, as if I could reverse people's karma just by spending money. So that it's a misdirected idea. Let me give charity to the poor. I've seen signs on even ISKCON trucks, free such and such city from hunger. And you're not going to free such and such city from hunger. According to karma, people will be hungry or they'll be overfed or whatever it is. But we're thinking we're going to make this a better world. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't try to make this a better world. He tried to get us out of this world. Prabhupada tells the story. There's this charitable work for improving people's material condition. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, sometimes referred to as harm-giving kindness. We think that we're helping people, but we're not. Prabhupada gave the example that you go to see some rich man, you meet the man, you meet his sons. Sometime later you see the son of that man loitering in the street and begging, tapping on your window, begging for food. So what do? Do you roll down your window and give him some food? Is that philanthropy? The boy is hungry, give him some food. Real philanthropy is you say, I know you're the son of such and such rich man. You get in my car, I'll take you back to your father. Because if he goes back to the father, that solves his food problem, his mental problem, every problem. His problem is that he's out of touch with his father. Not that he doesn't have food, that's just a manifestation of the problem. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission is to bring people back to Godhead, where they'll be free of all problems. Otherwise, Prahlad Maharaj says, how are we solving problems? We're taking the burden off one shoulder and putting it on another shoulder. So we're not really solving people's problems that way. At the end of World War II, the Americans liberated the concentration camps in Eastern Europe. And I saw an item that the people were emaciated. So many of them had been starving. They appeared almost like skeletons. And so the American soldiers, feeling compassion, were throwing their what they called G rations, which were their, the food that the soldiers were given to carry with them. They were just tossing it to these poor, emaciated people. And among those concentration camp inmates were some doctors who were prisoners. And the doctors were, don't eat it, don't eat it. Because these people had not been eating. Now they're going to eat this high protein military ration. They can't handle it. So, but these people were starving. They got the food in their hand. And having survived the whole concentration camp, they died because of the kindness of the American soldiers. So Saraswati Thakur used that expression, harm-giving kindness. I was on a train one time. That Gujarat earthquake had taken place, terrible earthquake, and people's homes were flattened, and so many people were stricken. And in the same car as me was a professor who had gone on behalf of her university to see what had happened. And she was telling me that the central government had allocated some big sum of money for relief work for these people. And she told me the central government gave it to the state government gave it to the district. I said, I know the rest of the story. She said, no. The amazing thing is that all the people got the money in their hand. And then what happened? The liquor wallahs moved in because all these people were destitute and they were wiped out and some people had been killed, family members and so on. So the liquor sellers came and they're the ones who got the money. So despite the best efforts of even the government, people were still poor, still stricken. We can't reverse karma just by expenditure. So charity should be spent according to Shastra. And Shastra says, give to the Brahmins and the Vaishnavas. Now that said, Srila Saraswati Thakur advised that the householders should not just be stingy. The beggars come and no, I won't give you anything. And they'll become hard-hearted. And they're spending for their own sense gratification. For that, they're not so hard-hearted. So they should give something. But not much. And something. Just, therefore you'll see, like on Govardhan Parikrama, there are these money changers. And they'll take your rupees and they'll give you little packets of little small coins. So you give something. But these great charitable enterprises for making this a better world are not what the Shastra recommends. If we have money, we should use it for distributing transcendental knowledge, kirtan. And if you want to be charitable, distribute books, distribute prasadam. But Srila Prabhupada directed that prasadam should be distributed from our temples. There was a typhoon in Navadvip, and Jayadvaita Maharaj wrote to Srila Prabhupada that during the typhoon we went out in the boat and distributed prasadam at the emergency places. We got good publicity. In the future, should we do that? And Prabhupada said, it's good to distribute prasadam. He said, but you should distribute from our temple, not from the emergency place. Do not go to the emergency place. I saw in Bombay one time, after this Gujarat earthquake, in fact, there were so many hoardings. The leading political party had a hoarding, and the head of the party was pleading with people, give money for the poor people of Gujarat. So it means just to advance our political popularity, we'll show our face as among the welfare workers. Pratyupakarartam, for getting some benefit for ourselves. So Prabhupada said we should distribute at our temples. In Mayapur, maybe you've seen there's a big prasadam pavilion. And if you've gone inside, this was built during Prabhupada's time, you've seen that there are turnstiles. Why are the turnstiles there? Why do you think? You know what a turnstile is? Turnstile are these revolving, not doors exactly, but entranceways, so that only one person can go through at a time. So why do you suppose they installed the turnstiles? So that there's no stampedes, right? So that people will go through one at a time and you won't have a big rush. That's what I thought also. Then I heard from Madhu Sevita Prabhu, who was a brahmachari at that time. Prabhupada had said, a brahmachari in Mayapur, Prabhupada had said that you should give people as much prasadam as they want. Say, let people come and take as much prasadam as they want, but they shouldn't be allowed to take any out. So these ladies, they'll under their sari, they'll keep a little tiffin carrier and they'll fill it up. Prabhupada said they shouldn't be able to take any out, otherwise they'll mix it with fish and then it will be an aparad. He said, so you should check. So they installed those turnstiles so that when people were leaving, they could check and see that they weren't bringing any out. Madhu Sevita Prabhu was one of the checkers, so he knew. These days we see that ISKCON distributes food by dropping it off at an orphanage or a school someplace and letting it be distributed by the non-devotees. And there's no idea of what's going on there. And then we distributed 125,000 plates of prasadam. But that's not what Prabhupada said to do. They should come to our temple. He wrote to Giriraj Maharaj when he was president of Bombay, it's very good that you're distributing prasadam, and you should try to increase, but do not go to the poor areas. He said, then it will be karma kandya. You should distribute at our temple. That way, temple means you come to the temple, you get darshan, you get kirtan, you get transcendental knowledge, books, pravachan, and prasadam. Where there's no prasadam, that's yajna in the mode of ignorance. When there's a yajna, there has to be distribution of prasadam. So at all of our temples, Prabhupada instructed there should be profuse prasadam distribution. Prabhupada visited the Golden Temple in Amritsar, and he was very favorably impressed for their program. They have very good arrangements for distributing. Big, large-scale prasadam. In Amritsar, there are no beggars, and everyone knows we can go to the Golden Temple and we'll get full prasadam. Rich or poor, Prabhupada said, we don't care rich or poor, they should all get. He said, everyone is poor, so they should get prasadam. And that was Prabhupada's program, not poor feeding. but distribution of prasadam to everyone, rich and poor, from our temples. Any questions, comments? Yes. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. In South Africa, in the university programs, we do food for life distribution. Recently, the devotee who was running it, Lakshminath Prabhu, he left. And, well, he passed on. And then we've been running those programs since. The thinking we have behind it is because
A little louder.
Sorry. The thinking we have behind it is that it's been very difficult for us to get back into the universities. So this sort of helps us with the student representative council to allow the student representative
A little louder, if you would.
The student representative council, it allows us to get in. But with the prasadam, then we're able to do books, we're able to speak to students.
Yeah. So that's, Prabhupada said, Hare Krishna, he said we should distribute prasadam from our temples or where we do Sankirtan. You know, when we're doing Sankirtan, then as part of Sankirtan, that's yajna, then we distribute prasadam. Not just books, but books, holy name, prasadam. So then it's very good. If you want good publicity, don't feed the poor, feed a journalism student. So, yes, when we're doing kirtan, then prasadam distribution should be part of our program. As part of our, we want to reach people, so here to our Prabhupada's 26 Second Avenue, and hugely successful, in large part because of the prasadam. Prabhupada wasn't going out on a feed the bums program, but when there was kirtan, especially the Sunday program, there had to be prasadam. And for the Sunday program, it was very opulent. We used to have a feast with like 18 or 20 different items. So you'd have to be crazy not to keep coming. So that kind of prasadam distribution, where the aim is not just to fill someone's belly, but to bring people to Krishna consciousness, to give them the real solution, not just a temporary fix.
Then the point that you were making about people taking away prasadam and then mixing it then with things that are not sattvic. I'm thinking like many devotees may have businesses where they sell prasadam, and sometimes then you don't know what somebody who buys prasadam does.
Yeah, what can you do? Prabhupada approved of such things. We're not the ultimate controllers. Yes.
Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada said that we can make our livelihood through book distribution and prasadam distribution, but not through kirtan and not through recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam. But we see in the modern Krishna conscious culture that there's so many kirtanyas who have to make their livelihood through kirtan. Their livelihood is through kirtan.
Yeah.
For example, like in Kenya, when we try to have a kirtan mela and invite a lot of the kirtanyas from Vrindavan to come, they ask for a lot, in exchange of coming. So do we help them, or do we follow what Srila Prabhupada said?
Well, do we follow what Prabhupada said, or do we follow something else?
And at the same time,
that's an easy one.
How do they make their livelihood? Because we're trying to help them.
That's stated by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I don't have it with me. He wrote an article about this very topic, and it will appear. I've written a book. It's in sort of late stage production. It's being published in installments on my website, jswami.info. About half of it is already online. And among the appendixes, or in fact, I think there's already a section. Yeah, there's already a section there on earning one's livelihood by kirtan, quoting Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti-yoga Thakur, saying that one shouldn't. Kirtan is not, because then you're making the holy name your servant. We're supposed to be servants of the holy name, but you're trying to make the holy name your servant. I'll chant the holy name and I'll get money. So Srila Prabhupada was against that very clearly. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote an article about it, which will appear in the book in full. I think it's already been circulating lately on the internet. And he says, no, when kirtaniyas travel around, people may naturally give them some contribution, and they can accept that, but not that it's a business. We charge money. Here's my fee. If you can't meet the fee, sorry, we can't come. That's no. And besides, kirtan is, first of all, it shouldn't be a profession, a means of livelihood, earning to get money by the holy name. Then where's the pure chanting? We chant for love of Krishna, not for getting money. Apart from that, we don't need professional kirtan. It's not that whoever knows the most tunes or the best beats or has the best voice those are the people we're out to find. We want people who'll chant Hare Krishna sincerely. That's where the potency is. They may have beautiful voices or not so beautiful voices. They may be excellent musicians or hardly be good musicians at all. But if they're chanting purely, then it will have effect. There were singers who were much better than Srila Prabhupada, your Anup Chalota and your Bhimsen Joshi and, all of those people. What they can do with a note is, can blow you away. They're so expert. But what can they do to spread Krishna consciousness? Nothing. They can only succeed in their profession and make money and entertain people with beautiful music, but there's no spiritual potency, or hardly any, negligible. But the Hare Krishna devotees spread Krishna consciousness all over the world just by sincerely chanting. So I know it's a trend these days to have melas and festivals and retreats and so on, and invite the best kirtaniyas from all over the world. And then everybody, they have their sets and people applaud and everybody's happy. My recommendation is have your local devotees chant Hare Krishna. Have your local devotees chant Hare Krishna. And if some other devotees want to come who want to enliven others by chanting the holy name, wonderful. Otherwise, let your local devotees chant. They'll be purified. Others will be purified. It's not a performance, like a professional show where we get the best musicians and put on the best show and then pay everyone according to the fee they've asked for because they're in an all-star group. Chant Hare Krishna sincerely. That's what we're meant to do. Yes, behind you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, many temples, they provide salaries to the devotees. So what do you say about that one?
I don't really have anything to say about it. They provide salaries to the devotees. I don't have any comment to make about it, really. For me, it's another world. I never got a salary, never asked for a salary, never expected a salary. And that was how so many of us worked. I remember I interviewed my late godbrother, Madhusudana Prabhu, who was working at the BBT in the early days. Not so early days, during Prabhupada's time, and the early days. And he told me, but they basically, he got in Los Angeles, they gave him and his wife an apartment to stay in, and prasadam, and like toothpaste money, hardly anything, no salary. That's how we worked. We worked for service to the spiritual master, not to get salaries. I understand why one might give salaries, but I don't have much to say about it. For me, it's like life on another planet. It's not the planet I grew up on, so I can't say much about it.
One more point. Yeah, just like donations, devotees, they give regular.
One more point. Therefore, we recommend that you don't get married. If the brahmacharis don't get married, they'll never need a salary. Then they can just serve without having to think about these things.
Many devotees, they give donations and they want their regular name for the donations.
Many devotees give donations.
Yeah, to the temple.
To a temple.
And they want their names and this one, so...
Yeah, then they expect their name. All right, then you'll see in all the temples of Vrindavan, they put plaques and stones. We put everywhere, donated by such and such, because people have that tendency. People are not always giving in pure sattva guna. Very often that's how they got their money, was by being in Rajaguna. So then, all right, you keep your name here, we'll put your name there. After all, we welcome their money and we want to engage them. So we accept and we give some recognition. In any fundraising program, that's sort of a standard. You always recognize your donors, you give them special privileges or acknowledgement. And anyway, that way they give something and their benefit and your program goes on. So in Prabhupada's time we did that. I see no problem with that. But the best donors don't even consider that we want our name here. They give without consideration, or sometimes they ask that their name not be divulged. I was told, when I visited Nathdwar one time, I was told that sometimes some wealthy people will send a truckload of something, and it'll just say, for Srinathji from Srinathji. Okay? Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. When the scripture speaks about charity, is it just referring to the monetary exchange? Does it take into account other exchanges of energy or words?
Yeah, sure. The cows were the most mentioned item. Nanda Maharaj or gave so many cows in charity. After Vasudeva was released, he gave so many cows in charity to the Brahmins. Cows to the Brahmins, not money to the poor. And the cows would be decorated with blankets and gold and so on. Grains would be given. So it wasn't just money, no.
Marge,
And
I'm also thinking in terms of things, but not physical things. Would that also like time and energy?
Sure, you can devote your time for serving a charitable cause. Time is money. Sure.
And then in that situation, do those requirements for charity also fall in place, the right time?
Not that I give my time and energy working for Planned Parenthood to increase the use of contraceptives in society. That's charity in the mode of ignorance. I may give money or I may give time, but it's the same ignorance. Instead of, in the name of doing good, I'm doing harm. So if I'm devoting myself, I want to be a charity worker, devote my time and energy selflessly, and I should do it for the right purpose, right time. This is the best charity, distribute Krishna consciousness. Our book distributors, our preachers, they're devoting their time and energy, giving their lives for the best charity, giving Krishna consciousness, which will solve all the problems for which that the other charity workers are trying to solve unsuccessfully. It's also a kind of cheating to advertise that we're going to wipe out poverty, or we're going to conquer this or conquer that. It tends to be a kind of cheating. Our one of our American presidents, I forget which one, when I was much younger, they announced a war on poverty. I forget which president, Johnson or somebody. They were going to wipe out poverty in America. So they had a war on poverty, and poverty won, predictably. There was a pseudo-spiritual group, I think because they were getting bad press, they started something called the Hunger Project. And their slogan was to eradicate poverty in our lifetime. Now they're gone, and the poverty is still there. According to karma, someone always has to be poor. You can't stop that just by spending money. Yes. But when we distribute Krishna consciousness, automatically you solve the mental problem, you solve the food problem, you solve the every problem. And people, just like our devotees, they join the Hare Krishna movement. They may have had so many problems, but those so many problems are solved just by becoming Krishna conscious. And then there are other people are trying to help them with this, with that, with this, with that. It doesn't solve their problem. You solve my hunger problem, and then I have a mental problem. You solve my mental problem, and then I have a marital problem. Then you solve my marital problem, I get run over by a truck. So what can you do? The real solution to all problems is Krishna consciousness. Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
As the collector who is collecting the funds for the temple and this one, and he demands that he need a very expensive car or he want to go
Let him
to the
go home
flight.
and let him go home and work and get a very expensive car. If he wants a very expensive car, we're not against that. Go home, get a job, and buy an expensive car.
I just wanted to mention, so the last Bhadra campaign,
Mhm.
for the last Bhadra campaign, the branding that Vaisheshika Prabhu wanted us to use for marketing was Save Earth Now. And
Save Earth Now,
yeah,
yes.
and the reason behind that was because, I mean, the spiritual literature, Srimad Bhagavatam, is what everyone actually needs.
Yeah. This is our charity program. Prabhupada placed the emphasis on distributing books. And all right, people think highly of charity, so we'll distribute prasadam at our temple and say, yes, we're also doing charity. But the way he said to do it, from our temple where we go on Sankirtan, not to the emergency place, not to the poor area, then it becomes karma kandya. Thank you. Shall we have kirtan? And who's leading the kirtan today? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, one.
And everyone's like, no, she's playing better. And he's like, you can sing. He's like, I'm not singing.
Mhm.
He tried to sing. He can.
Our rule is one tune. Whichever tune you like, but one tune. Think you can handle it? Okay.
He wants you to choose a melody.
Me to choose the melody?
Can you choose a melody?
Yes, any melody. Just choose one and stick to it.
He forgot all of them. He asked me to remind me any melody.
Anyone? I'm not very melodious, but I mean, if you ask me for a melody, Hare Krishna, but any melody you like.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna,